Once rulers of the grasslands in southern Africa, rhinos today stand on the brink of extinction, poached for their horns, ensnared in human conflict, and wiped out by shrinking habitats. These ancient giants are now fighting for survival. This is the story of their struggle and of the people dedicating their lives to give them the future they deserve. There are only 5 species of rhino left in the world: the black, white, Javan, Sumatran, and greater one-horned rhino. All of them still face threats to this day, with some of them nearing the edge of extinction. Poaching, of course, remains the number one threat. Despite being made of keratin, like our fingernails, rhino horns sell for nearly $60,000 per round. In fact, the rhino horn is considered more valuable by weight than that of gold, diamonds, or even cocaine. In 2017, the poaching of rhinos reached an alarming tipping point, with more than 1,100 killed or left unable to survive after the removal of their horns.
I mean, number one threat is poaching. And while, again, as I was talking about the numbers have reduced, and the government in South Africa would say, look at what's happening. The numbers are going down, but I think you have to, the Kruger has lost 75% of their rhinos. So as I said before, the numbers, there aren't so many rhinos to poach.
Black rhinos in particular have been on a devastating decline by more than 80% in recent generations. Although the lack of scientific proof surrounding the medical value of the rhino horn, it seems its value remains highly prized in traditional Asian medicine. This, of course, has meant that illegal gangs have been able to create a significant profit, and their hunt for these valuable animal parts have skyrocketed in recent years.
A gang might be, in northern South Africa one day, and then, in the west the following day, and so they're normally part of a bigger organization. They're quite sophisticated. You're not dealing with just one guy with a gun and a machete. It's actually people who, they have specific roles. They know their targets. They go in, they go out. They're very quick. And the sad thing is, if they know that there isn't security, they will try. And it's a horrible, horrible thing. I think obviously habitat is another, all wildlife is facing reduction in their habitat, and that is obviously a serious issue as well. Rhinos are they are incredibly adaptable. They have been on this planet for 50 million years, and they are incredibly adaptable. So I think, if poaching was to stop tomorrow, then, you would see rhinos, increasing in number. I think the issue also is that because of poaching, many reserves have, they decided not to have rhino anymore because the security involved in keeping them is so high, the cost is so high that they think, well, it's not worth it. And so I think if there was no poaching, many more people would want to invest in rhinos. And the difficulty, I think, is that because of what's happened is that you have pockets of population, and so you can't, your rhinos aren't sort of, roaming all over the place, and so your gene pool is diminishing because, it's people, I suppose, have been disinvested in rhinos. They're not buying rhinos, they're not breeding them.
Despite the continuous need for protection, rhinos don't just live in parks and zoos, they also live alongside people, often in places where poverty and wildlife collide. In places like the Waterberg region in South Africa, community-led conservation is changing the game. Locals are turning protectors and benefiting from ecotourism and community.
Yeah, I mean, we're a very small charity. Basically, we fundraise, and then we provide grants for projects in South Africa, specifically the Waterberg. We have someone who we sort of pay a consultancy fee, I suppose. She lives in the Waterberg, and she is South African, and she basically sort of looks after our projects there in terms of making sure that the money's being spent in the way it should be spent, making sure that if we have a new project that all the sort of kind of due diligence is done, and so she can keep an eye on everything there. So I think, I mean, we're very targeted. We have given funding to other things like Wild Dogs and Pangolin, but we do try and, we concentrate on what our sort of mission statement is.
Translocation is also playing a critical role. Conservation teams and wildlife specialists across the world are working to secure the future of Africa's most iconic species by moving them to safer reserves for them to thrive. This often involves months of detailed planning, a range of veterinary techniques, and community collaboration. This of course means there is hope for these animals. In sanctuaries and wild reserves, rhino calves are born, and once poached lands now seem to flourish with life again. The world is watching, and the fight is far from over, but the tide is turning. From Africa to Asia, in labs and villages, on patrols and in classrooms, the rhino's future is in our hands. We can let them fade into myth, or instead help them to thrive for generations to come.
The problem is when you take on a role like this, you have to concentrate. You can't do everything. Our influence, I suppose, is based in the Waterberg, and so we can only do what we can there. And obviously there are other people who are working in the Far East, say, to try and educate people over there as to what's happening. But you just want it to stop. That's really, I suppose, the greatest frustration.